Supposed to request my own walk-up music. I didn't know I had that opportunity. My first Samplecon, Jon Cohen from Momentive-AI. It's the first time I've said that into a microphone. I've known it as SurveyMonkey, where I've worked for 8 years, but we rebranded last year. Excited to be here, see some friendly faces from APOR that I was just in Chicago, exchanging lots of ideas. So looking forward to the conversation. I love the title of this talk. It is "We Are Not Early, We Are Late." Of course, we're behind the trend. But despite the hype, exceedingly few US adults have ever heard of Web3. In our surveys, it's about 10%, and only about 6% express real knowledge or any knowledge about it. I think we're late because we're late if we want to. It expresses the urgency we need to bring to make a difference in how we define Web3 surveys. As we all know, and I was in a great session on quality just recently this morning, that Web2 is a mixed bag in terms of quality at best. For Web3 to be better, it's going to take all the people in this room working together on standards, doing it transparently and bringing some rigor. So I'm excited today to lead this discussion. I told Corey I'm coming in with not a lot of experience in Web3, but a great deal of enthusiasm and a curiosity that hopefully many of you share in the room, because we have to get this right. And so I'm delighted to welcome our speakers today. First is Craig Obligacion Wilson, works for Unigrid.org. He is part of an intelligent, audacious team looking to disrupt the internet by creating a decentralized cloud service. He brings a lot of skills that you'll hear about. He'll join Jacqueline Rosales, Jax, as many of you know. He'll join her in a presentation. She will come up first. She's a startup lover with an entrepreneurial spirit and has spent 25 years in the market research and insight space, becoming successful companies from ground up. She currently holds the title of President of ISA and Chief Community Consultant, which is one of the most awesome titles I've heard in a while. She's also the president, and she's also she's the Chief Community Consultant for a Web3 tech company, Gripner. Am I saying that right, Jax? I'm just going to get the hell out of the way and welcome Jax to the stage, and I look forward to your questions and discussion.
Okay, let's not fall. Hi, everyone. Some people that promised me last night they'd be here at 1:05 are not here. So as they enter into the room, we will all call them out and heckle them. So make sure you follow that with me. So it's really exciting and interesting, if you will, for me to be back on this Samplecon stage. So if you don't know, 9 years ago, I got a call from Mr. Patrick Comer, who said, Jax, I have an idea and I need $10,000. And I was like, do you know where I work? I work for Mike and Tony. You want me to get $10,000 for some crazy idea that you have to do this? And I hadn't been at the time, I was there a little bit, and somehow they agreed, or they either agreed or it might have been a forgiveness rather than permission situation. It's hard to say, right, Mike? But at any rate, we went in, there was a group, there was 5 of us, and those first early years of Samplecon, we brought Rachel on, and trying to put events together, get speakers, the idea that we now have people submitting papers, right, to speak versus us being like, will you please come on our panel, is so amazing. Seeing the sponsorship, I saw at the beginning, there were some stats, and I might not remember them off the top of my head, but I believe we have about 240 attendees here at Samplecon. We're representing 16 different countries, and we have more than 45 speakers. And so it's been a couple of years. I rolled off the board. We spent about 5 years and rolled off, and it's really fun to be back home. I had an amazing time last night with all of you. And so anyways, that's enough about Samplecon. But I am happy to be here and to be back. And I also am happy to scare you all a little bit with what I'm going to share today, which happens to be a fairly decent strategy of mine. And we're going to talk about Web3. We're going to talk about where things are at, a little bit where things are going. Of course, we don't have a ton of time up here, but we do have a collaboration lab after if people want to chat. It's a lot. So to the point, Corey, I think you asked for some definitions, and I'm so excited because we have some definitions for you, which is exciting. And we're going to do a little trivia. Going to see who here knows things and who doesn't. Yes, Mike? Would you like to give me some feedback? What was this? You want me to quiet down? Slow down. Okay, thank you. slowing down. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look. So I want to, there we go. So here you see, hope many of these brands, right? You probably work for. Maybe you work directly with these brands. Maybe you deliver data to an insights company that works with these brands. But these are pretty familiar, right? I'd say these are prominent, established, huge brands. Every single one of these brands is in Web3. Every single one of these brands is doing research for Web3, okay? So this idea that this is not happening or we don't need to pay attention is actually not true. It is happening. We have a growing roster of clients who are desperate to talk to collectors, creators, technology people, all kinds of industries, right? And it is moving so fast. My initial entry into this was a commitment that I was going to learn. It was over 1,040 hours of embedded learning, and now I spend still an average of about 40 to 50 hours a week, still in those spaces with that knowledge. The space changes so quickly, it's not something you can just read about, right? Like the idea of really getting in there with the people who are driving that is huge. So I'm here to say these brands are here. These brands already have launched projects, and these people all needed to talk to people in order to figure out what it was that they were doing. So when they go out and they say, I'm going to find a research firm that's going to help me, what do you think happens? There isn't anybody. Well, there is, Jacqueline. But this is what the challenge is, right? And so it's also something interesting. Yesterday, Seaman Group, they were talking about some challenges, right? One of them we talked about was staffing. And we talked about, you bring people on and there's more money and less money. And what's been interesting is my last now five hires know nothing about research. They've never been in sales. They don't know data analytics, but they know Web3, right? So now there's this idea of we're bringing in subject matter experts to build teams at this level. It's given us direct access to brands, right? Because there's no intermediary for anybody to go through. But when I, kind of was putting this list together, I thought, it's very powerful to me to be able to share this with you all today, because I think people read things one-off and think, oh, well, when it comes in 10 years or 5 years or 6 years, we'll be ready. Okay? So we've got this crypto. All of these words, right, are part of this Web3 space. We just picked crypto as an example for, make it look nice. And we're going to talk a little bit about these definitions. There is a whole different language within this space. There are, your standard 5,082 acronyms, right, that don't make any sense. And then it is all different language, all different definitions and terminology. It's not something you can fake your way through. So some of those big clients have come to us with, an RFP or an outline of something that they plan to do. And the way that they're presenting to try to ask the questions, I say all the time, I'm like, this isn't a thing. Like, this isn't a question. Like, this doesn't mean anything, right? Like, you're mixing everything up. So there's a lot of opportunity for us, if nothing else, to get people on your staff that are familiar with the space, and at the very least, find out who on your staff already is doing this in their personal life. You might be surprised, okay? So let's go through a few little trivia questions, have a little bit of fun, okay? And then we'll jump into Crypto Nation education. And Craig will join me on stage, and we'll dig down a little bit, and then John will come back up, and he is going to trick us with some surprise questions, and we're just going to have an open chat, and then anyone who has a question can come up. Okay, so quiz, ready? And so this is what I'll have. This is what I want you to do. If you think the answer is A, you guys just ate lunch. You need an exercise. A, make a little A. Okay, okay. Anybody think it's B? Nobody thinks it's B? Okay, good job. In real life, that's right. So you'll hear people will be talking all the time, and they'll say, this is a project, it's digital, and they'll be like, oh, but there's an IRL component to it. People are like, what does that mean? That could mean you have an NFT, you unlock it, but in real life, it gives you access to go to a movie, or you get a baseball hat, or you get a prize, right? Okay? Oh, that was the answer. Okay, what does HODL mean? Anyone know? We got some A's over here. Hold. So it actually is like hold on for dear life, right? So it's like don't sell no matter what, right? So these are kind of the terms that we're learning. Anybody familiar with the collection of Bored Apes? Yes. So NFT collection or your colleagues? Yay, hey, that's true. Okay, Wagbo. Hey, that's right. We're all going to be okay. So you see, when you're in Twitter, right, or when you're out there in social media, these are the hashtags you're seeing. Hashtag Wagbo, hashtag IRL, hashtag LFG, which means let's fucking go. Sorry, Rachel, had to do it once. Okay. Now I want to switch over a little bit here. And does anybody here know the answer to this question? Who has been Jacqueline's mentor for the last 10 plus years who knows absolutely nothing about Web3? Mickey Mouse, Mike Halberstam. B, that's right. Hi, Mike. We want to take a moment and say to you that we are very happy to have you part of Samplecon. For those of you that don't know, Mike was the chairman and president and founder of ISA for more than 38 years. He rolled out in January of last year, and I had the privilege of taking over that company. It's been a year and a half now, and he came to hear us talk, and I'd love, people were so excited to know that he was going to be here. And he's dedicated 44 years of his life so far to this research industry. So if everybody could stand up just for a minute and turn around, and he can't fire me, Thank you, Mr. Halberstam. Yeah, no problem. It's been a couple of weeks, so I had to do something. Okay, let's go through this really quick. Anybody know this one? Name of a real NFT project. Pudgy penguins, fat flamingos. It is A. There's apes, and there's flamingos, and there's cats, and there's dogs, and there's everything else. What about DAOs? Has anybody heard this term DAO? No? Okay. This is going to be very impactful to our industry. Correct. DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization that is owned by the people that participate in it, that gives them the right to ownership, monetization, and voting rights. Okay? OpenSea. Who's familiar with OpenSea? Well, look at Rachel's over here. Like yeah, of course. FOMO. Yep, good. Here you go. Adidas. Anybody here do work with Adidas? You're probably not going to tell me anyways, but that's fine. The first NFT collection, 24 hours, sold out. How much money did Adidas make on that NFT collection in its initial sellout? 4 million or 23 million? $23 million, okay? So this is also becoming a new monetization stream for brands. This is giving brands direct access to their community, to their customers, all the things that we talk about here. Now, brands are being able to connect with individuals without any of us, okay? So let's get into a little bit of the terms, understand the language that we're speaking, and then we'll talk a little bit about the impact on the sample industry and consumers in general. So Craig, I'd love to invite you up to join me. Speaking of hires, yes, come on up, Craig, Mr. Craig with Unigrid. Welcome to the stage, Craig. Craig has never been at Samplecon before. He actually is not from market research. And he is working with me on several projects out there in Web3. And right now he's working with a company called Unigrid. And I'm really happy to have you join us up here today, Craig.
Thank you so much for the invite.
Yeah, you bet, you bet. So we're going to do a little education. I'm going to give you some key definitions. And then Craig's going to kind of talk a little bit more, dive into the actual technology part of it. So for purposes of our conversation today, I'm going to make these definitions really simple so that we can just all follow along. For those of you who may be more familiar with the space, then they might not be the definitions you love the most, but they work for now. So the first thing that you might hear all the time is NFT. Does anybody in here own NFTs? Mm-hmm. So Rachel said NFTs are artwork. That is one use of an NFT. But an NFT, when we talk about a non-fungible token, it's basically a digital certificate of ownership that never changes. It is immutable for life. So if I have these designer shoes and I want to track them, now instead of, if you think about like in the fashion industry, all the knockoffs and how much money is lost, now we talk about digital certificate of ownership. It could be anything you have a title for. Home ownership, anything that shows that you do memberships, club access, right? Most people think of NFTs as JPEGs, right? Like, why the F am I going to pay that much money for a JPEG because anybody else can use it? But that JPEG, you own it. It only goes to you. And that is like indisputable. And once you take ownership of that, it is on the blockchain forever. right? It is there forever. So if you think about in the research space, we get concerned with data, right? So Greg, you and I have been talking about this. Yeah. And then what's so interesting, right, in our space, right, we have all this challenge you've been hearing about data quality and are people answering. And now imagine a situation where we can track what people say over time and there's a record. Yeah. They can't go to one panel company, another panel company, and another panel company and answer the same question different ways, because once it's captured, that's the answer, right? Or that's the ownership. Make sense? Yeah.
Yep, 100%.
Then we've got cryptocurrency. Again, we're just going to talk about digital money, digital currency, okay? Metaverse is an environment in which people interact online. It can also include components of VR or AR. The metaverse right now, I messed this up backwards. There you go. Metaverse right now for brands is key. They are all working to build their own retail environments, media environments, tell me with some of these other environments. Brands are building out huge spaces.
Event environments.
Events, yep.
Experiences.
Yep, events, experiences. We've been to a couple concerts.
Yep.
Online. And this is where brands are really, really looking to dig themselves in, right? They really are. Think about an environment, too, where everything is an advertisement. It's a closed environment where you can buy, sell, and transact all within that one space without ever leaving. So now take a look at a client like Amazon, who now builds a metaverse. They have their own cryptocurrency. They have their own branding, their own place to go. They are now a closed system, right? Not saying it's going to happen, just saying it could, right? There's an example. Blockchain, we're going to talk about the technology. Craig's going to dig in a little bit. That's the underlying technology of Web3. Craig is also going to share with you the difference between Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3, so that you know where we're at. And then finally, one of the main terms we hear all the time is about smart contracts, and they are neither smart nor contracts. It is basically just digital code that tells something to do something somewhere else. We're very familiar with that, right? Doesn't actually take programming either. I mean, sort of a little bit. But let's go ahead and turn it over to Craig. Craig, you want to share with us a little bit about the technology, which I know this group is going to be super interested in.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Jax. Thank you so much. Who here remembers like the 90s where if someone got on the phone, the internet went down? Or remember having to pay per minute? Well, that's Web 1, right? It was all billboards. It was all like advertisements. It was all information being dropped from the companies and from businesses. Now, Web 2 is really about social media. It's about sharing, everybody sharing information, and it's centralized, right? Facebook owns all the owns a ton of information. Google owns a ton of all that information is centralized. In fact, if you weren't aware, like 70% of websites are built through 3 companies' servers. So 3 companies own 70% of the internet. It's very centralized. You get into Web 3, and everything becomes decentralized. And I think the one thing that's gonna blow some heads in here, maybe from my understanding at least, is that the consumers own the information. The consumers have the right to sell it to you versus you pay them for it. It's a little bit of a different strategy. It's very bottom up, or as I like to call it, C to B instead of B to C. Mm-hmm. And that C could either be consumer, customer, or community, right? It's the community that's making the decisions to go through for Web 3.
And Craig, we're seeing like huge impact, right, of Web3, specifically on like the entertainment industry and studios.
Yes.
Because now we're talking about what we refer to as a creator economy, which is now the creators own the information. So if I'm Amazon Studios and you did something, I'd buy it from you. And then, I might pay you whatever money, and then I make that money over and over and over and over and over. Now, the creators own it. They're making money over and over. And we have legacy institutions whose current models are being turned completely upside down. Because now studios have to understand a new monetization model. They have to understand, how do we get involved with creators? They're trying to figure out where they even find these people. How do we get, like how do we get our legs on the street? So, at the beginning we had Web 1, it's like read only. There's a posting, you could read it. Web 2, read, write, right? Yep. You can read, you can write, you can post.
And interact.
Now in interact, and now in Web 3, it's the ownership economy. It is anybody can contribute, anybody can own the data, and anybody can own the project, right? That's another thing that's concerning a lot of industries too, is that there is now potential for not to have a need for funding. You don't need to have funding anymore because there's all kinds of different ways that you can do things, generate money. We're seeing, that's exciting, is creators, artists, musicians are actually making a living for the very first time because they're able to connect directly with their fans, have a direct access. Maybe they have a small NFT collection that gives that, people access to VIP backstage behind wherever they go. But the musicians now may not need those central organizations, right? So you don't need that part in the middle. They can just go direct.
In fact, you said the ownership economy. I think that's perfect. She mentioned Bored Apes during the quiz. If you weren't aware, when you buy a Bored Ape, you actually own the IP to it also. So, like, for example, I don't know if you know, but Universal Records, they actually bought 3 Bored Apes and they're turning them into a band, into an animated band. They own the IP. But you could call it, I guess, the legacy company that created the Bored Apes, they are actually also getting a percentage of that. So other people are doing the advertisement and the work for them. It's an interesting concept because you can decentralize and own anything in Web3. I can go on and on and on about a ton of different examples. There's some interesting things happening in Singapore about it, but that's a different subject. Okay, so now, how many of you, out of curiosity, are familiar with blockchain in general? And like what it, okay, cool. Good. That's good. So blockchain is a digital ledger. I also like to think of it as like a digital timeline, right? Where all the information is encrypted. So it can't be changed, it can't be accessed, it's always there. It's like also like a moment in history, it's always there, can't be changed, okay? And then it's peer-to-peer. So all this information gets spread everywhere. Anybody can access it. And all of that information is shared. All that data, anybody can access. And most importantly, it's decentralized. There is no ownership of it except for the individual. One biggest use case of this that I know for me personally, when I first started studying Web3 and getting into it, it kind of took me a minute to really get over it, is that if you look at a digital wallet like MetaMask, anybody can access that information. There are videos on YouTube of people digging into a crypto millionaire's wallet and showing everybody in the world how much they own, what kind of interactions they do online, or on the blockchain, that is, through Etherscan. So it's kind of you gotta twist your brain a little bit to understand it. It's hard to imagine anybody accessing my personal bank account and just being able to see it just because. And that's only gonna grow. So it's a brand new concept.
I think too, what's interesting, you talked about immutability, right? So the data is always there. And it is interesting because that data is all there. Like you can go see everything. You can go on Etherscan and see every single thing I've done, every single thing I've bought, anybody I've sent money to, all of that stuff is there. Like it's there and it will be there and anybody can access it. So that's really interesting. The same when we talk a little bit about these communities. Right now they're running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for free. You could go there, right? And learn these things. It always amazes me when we don't have brands and other people there just learning because it's all there for the free. So let's talk a little bit about, we've got the technology, we've told you a little about these terms, we've told you all these companies are here, these different brands are here. So let's talk a little bit, I hear all the time, right? I don't know what that is. I don't get it. I don't get it. It has nothing to do with me. I'm a researcher. I don't even know what you're talking about. And it's interesting because, what I find is that there are tremendous parallels as it relates to our industry. And the opportunity is endless. And we know what's going on. So does anybody here know what an exchange or a marketplace is? Anybody use one, right? Okay. Guess what the central hub of Web3 is based on? Exchanges, which are platforms that allow people to buy and sell In this case, they can buy and sell to each other direct through other people. So we look at exchanges and marketplaces in Web3 are very similar to exchanges and marketplaces we have in Sample. If I've messed up if anybody bought one of these each other and has a different name or whatever, I'm really sorry. I do want to thank Matt Gershner, who was sitting next to me as I was doing things. He's like, that's not the company name anymore, it's this. I'm like, ah! So hopefully we got them right, and if not, blame Matt Gershner if he's not here. So again, exchanges, marketplaces. You guys understand what that is. You get the technology, you get the purpose of it, right? What about communities? Anyone here ever heard of a community? Anybody, clients doing research, communities? There is no Web3 projects, brands are built from the bottom up.
C to B.
C to B, right? So these communities form, and they are there online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Twitter Spaces, Clubhouse, Discord, Twitch, and people, sometimes it's dozens of people, sometimes it's hundreds of people, sometimes it's thousands of people, all having a conversation about the same thing. So when clients come to me and say, I really need to connect with creators because I need to understand how this is going to impact my business, we've then had to create methodologies to be able to conduct these conversations, groups, et cetera, within the environments that these people are already used to being in, and rewarding them with cryptocurrency, right? So the first project we did may have made the legal team, Reuven, a little nervous, because I said, well, we're going to do these on Clubhouse. I'm sure the technology is secure, and we're going to pay everyone $500 in cryptocurrency, which had to come from my wallet and then reimburse. It's not smooth, right? And I'm pretty sure I did get permission on that one first. But it was extremely successful. That was the very first project that we did in that space. And that research is being used over and over and over and replicated, if you will, over and over. We pay a lot of money in these communities to get people, to get them to stay, to learn what they have to say. And this is an organic, natural, real-time environment. Now, are you going to be able to go, can I go back to my clients and say, yes, I can get you a study, and we can talk to collectors, we can talk to investors, and we can talk to creators? What I'm not saying is, yes, I can get you a statistically balanced sample of this, and we're going to represent by 8-point regions, and we're going to nest your quotas, and they don't care as much, because what they're very interested in is these early adopters. So if you're going to be part of an early adopter industry, you sort of have to be prepared that they're not going to be representative, right? Not one of these clients has said something to me like, you know what, Jax, I really want to learn what these people have to say, so let's do a really shitty 35-minute survey, right? They say to me, Jax, we need to talk to these people. Can you tell us what to do? Can you tell us how to get them? How many do we need? What do we need to look for, right? And this is an opportunity for everybody here, right? We can't do it, one person can't do it alone. And I'm here to say that I think as a research industry, if we don't pick up, especially from the sampling side, and start getting out there in front of these companies and organizations, somebody else is going to do it. Because there has to be an added value that we now have. Because they now could now have access to the people. They can now have, these direct, so what are the added insights? What is our ability to access these people, right? What do you do with them once you've accessed them, right? These are all important things, but still, again, standard for our industry. We understand we have underlying technology, we understand what exchanges and marketplaces are, and we understand what communities are, right? So Craig and I were chatting a little bit earlier just about the industry and the space and what was important to this group. Maybe we should give Craig a quiz. Craig, what were the 4 things that resonate with this group? The QSPT, what was it? Yeah,
it's quality, consistency, security, and privacy.
See, you know research. There you go. Very good. Yes. So as we talk about those things, we see a lot of parallels, which we're going to continue talking about. So when we talk about why you need to be here now, right? I'm not saying take all your technology, take all your surveys, put them on the blockchain, only reward people with cryptocurrency, right? Do I believe all of that is here and coming? Yes, you'll see a little bit of it actually in the slide. But it's this idea of understanding that there is a massive cultural shift being driven by technology that is akin to when the internet was introduced.
100%. It's just as big. Blockchain it's not internet 2.0. It's a little different, but it's giant.
When I think about that, I can tell you the very first time I logged onto the internet, And I was in a friend's like attic. Like we lived in these houses. We lived in attics. It was weird. It was in college. We lived in attic, and we got the little disc, and we put it in, and I was sitting on the ground with this girl Jenny, and we did it, and was like, hey, right, or whatever. And I was like, I get very excited about these cultural moments. I'm like, oh my gosh, right? Like this is gonna be crazy. And we do some other presentations where there's lots of funny articles that came out at that time where it's like the internet is dead. The internet is an internet of fools.
Yeah.
Right? There's no such thing. It'll never be
It's
here.
a fad.
And so I think our level of steepness and the way that we talk with clients in all of these communities is we're here to say like, yeah, it's going to be big. Our clients are already here. People are begging for people who have knowledge. So when they understand, when I'm in a group and then they're wherever it is, I do tons of moderation. I run a show every Thursday night. You're welcome to come tomorrow night if you'd like. It's on Twitter Spaces about DAOs. Oh no, Thursday night, sorry. I don't know the day. But they are looking for people with experience. So I don't know about you. We were talking about, clients demand this and demand that. I've always teased, like, wouldn't it be awesome if we ever got to the point where a client had to pay us just to give them a proposal? Right? We are almost kind of there. I have clients paying me to go sit there for 1 hour and do a lunch and learn with them. Like nothing, just show up. Our team is gonna come meet you and we're gonna have a discussion and we run them through like some basics and what's going on in their industry, right? So there's a real opportunity here to be thought leaders. We know the space, we know consumers, we know what it's like to have shifting consumer behavior. We understand interruptive markets, we understand emerging markets. Right? So I think that we really are, we're really at that point. Sometimes we do forget because we eat, live, and breathe this, and the people around us do, and then we go out into like the real world, right? And people are like, what are you guys talking about? Right? You guys just think it's so popular because you're embedded, and it's like, no, that's a little bit more to that. So speaking of rewards, right, and incentives, if I say to a creator, so Craig is also a creator. He has an NFT project. It's about derbies. And I say to a creator, I would like you to answer these questions for my clients, and I'm gonna give you 20 points. And once you get 5 million points, you can cash out for a gift card. Not gonna answer us, right? This is really going to become a problem. So we did a survey. We're looking at. I had to put some data in here. I felt like it would make Rachel happy. So we did some statistics here. But talking about this was amongst a group of panelists. What their familiarity was. When I look at the makeup of this group, and I've been to these conferences, and we hear we got these hard to reach groups. We can't get the mails. We can't get this. They're all right here. Right? Then we took steps a little bit further to understand like who's familiar, who owns, who'd like to own or not. And what we found is cryptocurrency would make a really great reward, right? So we're getting close to our fireside, I think, chat. So I think our final thing here is we talk about this marriage. We talk about it being very far away. It is not. You can currently do surveys and reward people in cryptocurrency. Here's a Can Opinion poll that we did. We do have a rule that cannabis surveys cannot be longer than 7 minutes. And this is an example. This is a beta example, right? We're not live in the marketplace, but this is already here. The technology is already here. The capability is already here. This company in particular also owns massive amounts of transaction data. So then once they get the person on, they've got their transaction data plus whatever their survey data is, and it's all accessible through this same platform. So we're not looking at multiple platforms for stuff. So John, would you like to come up and join us? This is sort of like repeat. I think that we got this done. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to let Craig answer all the questions.
Haha. Good.
Well done.
I'm down.
Yeah? Did you learn anything?
A ton.
You did?
Yeah, absolutely.
You believe me
I
more now,
want
or
to
no?
know, I do have a question.
Yeah.
I have multiple questions. And
Okay.
if you have questions, please assemble at one
No
of
questions.
the mics. No questions. What is the current value of the $23 million in NFTs that the Adidas?
Ooh, that's a good question. We could look at it.
Someone Google that.
Can someone or look up the floor?
here.
If you just look up the floor price on that project, we could tell you. Does anybody know how to do that?
So you mentioned kind of the surveys are here for surveys are here for the understanding the early adopters in this space. But kind of your premise is this will soon disrupt the entire research industry. It's here, it's coming.
Disrupt everything.
Thankfully, we're well prepared. We know certain things about exchanges and communities and incentivization, so that feels good. So you teach us WAGBO, hopefully it is WAGBO, not WAGBO. So that's exciting. But where are we likely to see the first, from a research perspective, first for you, Jax, where are we likely to see the first impact of Web3 surveys?
So I think right now, the first impact has actually come, like setting aside a Web3 survey, because I don't even know what you mean by Web3 survey, right? So once we're in Web3, we're not doing surveys, right? Or you could still have a way to contact them, but again, everything they're doing online and everything eventually is gonna be connected together, and it'll be a big data lake pool of consumers that you then tap into, and it will be a lot about analytics and aggregation. There will still be, obviously, first-party data collected. It'll look in different ways. I think, John, for me to say like when I think Web3 surveys will be standard, we're doing them. I mean, it's happening. I think there's a few organizations that are doing the same thing. So some of that is already happening. Some of the impacts of that is shorter, right, rewards. A little bit tough with mass adoption. So was anybody here like what happened to crypto last week? Okay, right? So now this is a challenge, right? We're gonna reward our respondents potentially, and they've got $500, right, for doing a creator study, and now all of a sudden that value of that $500 is only worth $100. Or maybe they got $100 and now the value goes up to $500, right? So there's like that variability and inconsistency. I don't know what a survey will look like, John. What I do know is right now, if I was people in this room, I would start working on ways to access those people. Understanding where do I find an NFT collector, an NFT investor, and a creator, because those are the three audiences, right? And then there'll be tech and contract and like other dev stuff. But as a research industry, I wouldn't focus as much yet, but although there's people building and it's out there, and within 6 months, you will see multiple companies doing this, if that answers your question. But right now, it's really about where do you find the people and understand the space.
And are there certain industries or topics that you think will likely be disrupted sooner than others?
I mean, you come from one. You want to talk?
Yeah.
You're a filmmaker.
Yeah. Well, you know the phrase like history repeats itself. I don't think that's right. I think people repeat themselves. So if you go back to even just like Web 2, what were the first things that got disrupted in Web 2? Entertainment, music, gaming, and even fashion. The same thing is going to happen again. And really, if you want to think about how this technology is going to grow, look back at any past pattern that's already happened. You know, if you think about even, I'm going to go on a tangent. If you think about stocks for 1 second, before stocks were electronic, they were paper, and there was a lot of fraud in stocks. Also, people selling paper for fake businesses that didn't exist. People thought the gold rush was a fraud. This is all true. You can look it up. It's going to keep on repeating itself.
So I think the expression is history doesn't repeat itself, but does rhyme. And so those disruptions feel different over time, even if they have some of the same characteristics. So if you can talk about the industries that you're familiar with, what does the disruption feel like? You know, for an industry that may be soon to be disrupted. Many of us who have known, well, we think we know how we're doing it. We think we can do it the same way forever. We won't be able to. What does it feel like on the inside of an industry that's going through such change?
Well, I come from like Hollywood also. I have a Hollywood background, filmmaker background. And as a creator, I'm excited as all hell. Like I think the ability to own really truly own my IP and my creations and having it on the blockchain and also using this technology to build my own community and we raise money together and the fan base, the community will actually all get a piece of it in a way, whether it's an NFT or once some laws are passed and securities and things, a little percentage of the profit. Now on the business side, which I also have an interest in, it's a little scary because it's so new. Like how do you adapt? What do you do? What is the business model? But I also think that's the advantage if you get in now. You get to help control and inspire the narrative of where it's going to go. But you also have to understand the space and respect it, then come in from that direction.
I know there's a panel tomorrow that has some respondents joining us, so it'll be interesting to see, to ask them the question about what it'll feel like to own it. When this does take off in our industry, and I think we stipulated that it will, how will things be different for research firms, Jax, to you, some of our clients, and most importantly, those respondents that we're so curious about?
Yeah, I think so. This is a opinion, so I will say, or a prediction, is that the idea of us owning people, like in a panel that signs up, I think is not going to look the same. Do I believe that there will be a future environment where there isn't a group of people that you can contact and yes. I think it'll look different. I think it might look a little bit more free form, messy. I also think that this is the time when data analytics and category expertise are going to be huge in the space, which I think is another disruption to us. We're not used to hiring people that don't know those things, and how does that work together? For me, I think it's super scary. Like from a business standpoint, from a consumer standpoint, I am like elated, right? I have, and by the way, within this environment, it's been one of the most impactful things I have ever done in my life. And I have met people that I will know for the very rest of my life that come from all different industries, that are like-minded, that are early adopters, that really want to push this together. Right now, everybody's working together to rise. Also, it's great to know, as I'm coaching that list of clients that you saw up there, most of the people in the space don't want them there. They don't want you guys. They don't want anybody corporate. They don't want to hear, oh, I'd like to meet, the COO of such and such. No. This is like the project brain trust, right? They don't want to hear those terms because that brings them back to corporate, unfairness. They're going to control. Shit, they got way more money than we do. So what happens when they come in and we're just going to take credit cards and do this and play games and whatever? How is that going to impact the industry? So it's a little love-hate.
Here's a question I wish I'd asked earlier, but I'm curious now. When you think about the clients that come to this, what's bringing them to you to ask these questions? Is it fear of missing out on a hot trend? Is it concerns over quality and the way things are now, or what is it?
It is fear about how they are going to connect to their consumers and what that impact on customer engagement, customer experience, and customer retention will look like. It is a model where it will turn upside down that whole narrative.
And you don't have to be in the VIP section to ask questions. So please come up to one of the mics. Don't make me call on Corey to ask a question, but I'm happy to do that. I can put my professorial hat on. I have a couple rapid fire questions.
Okay. We answer one word, or what do you mean? Just like we just go fast? What happens here?
Just whatever.
Jacqueline, don't say a lot of words.
I'm gonna, Jax, you can start, and Craig, you go after.
Okay.
These are, you went on a tangent earlier. I will go on tangents here. This
okay.
Not all on topic, but I'm
ready.
I'm filling in. This is a discussion. None of you are participating, but that's okay. What's the best show you're currently watching, Jack?
You want to ask a question? Yeah.
Okay. Well, while you get it come there, what's the best show you're watching right now?
Well, so my best show just ended, so Ozark. Mm-hmm. Now I don't have a new one.
Good. So I didn't know the second batch had been released yet. So
oh yeah, it's.
Give me something to watch on the plane right now.
Yeah.
How about you, Craig?
Okay.
So I'm looking for a reaction from you guys.
Great.
So I have a 14-year-old son who is really into digital animation and going down the art path, and as I'm listening to you guys, I'm like, this is really cool. I should tell him about this.
Yes.
And I said,
100%.
I write this to him. You need to learn about Web 3.0 and NFT creations as you get more digital art, and animation might be useful for you down the road, blah, blah, blah. He's in 9th grade high school. His response, like just now, Dad, NFTs are overpriced and the internet hates them, laughing my ass off. And then I said,
be your future
then I need to learn from you, haha. So
I love it.
what do you do with that? So this is a young person who is very digitally savvy and sort of getting into the art world, and what you're describing about sort of giving power of ownership and opportunity to the artists themselves, that really resonated with me. I was making a personal connection, but he just shot it down in flames. Discuss.
Yeah, so what's actually interesting is that is the opinion of lots of people.
Yep.
Right? Lots of people. Lots of people have that opinion, right? The younger kids, right, are growing up digitally. But what we see is, does anybody know Nyla, right? Nyla's the name, Nyla. She's a 13-year-old artist that was on the cover of Time, that did all of the 50 most powerful people. We are in rooms all the time where we have kids between the ages of 10 and 15 that show up. They're sharing their collections. They are now artists. They are generating income at their current state. It doesn't matter if they're 12, 13, 14, 15. Their art is now getting seen by other people. If they are animators, they're now going to get put, they have the opportunity if they want to join these communities. Some will early adopt, some will mid adopt, some will late.
Yep.
The biggest challenge in this space right now, straight up, is one word, and that is education. Education.
It's just like the education of the early internet. It's the same thing. Like you can, 2003, I did a presentation recently, and I found this article online, and it was from 2003 that said the internet is a fad. There's always people that are gonna like deny it until it's undeniable. And trust me, blockchain, this whole space is gonna be undeniable. You are not gonna be able to walk away from it.
Well, two things on
Part of our
NFTs.
lives.
I mean, it is a common experience. So we've actually been surveying awareness and knowledge about NFTs, and it's been flat to negative over a year. I mean, there's a fad, aspect to this. I will also say that from a lot of what he sounds like he's reacting to is the speculative nature of the interest that people have in this as a speculative asset. And we saw it, crater as many, all assets cratered. But we saw that on NFTs. What we're talking about here in the broad expression of Web3 surveys is there's still a set of technologies that can be useful to our industry to address some of the challenges that have developed over multiple decades that in some part are technological, and our access, authentication, authenticity that we're getting from people. They're technological solutions, and my enthusiasm for the panel is that the problems that we face could be solved by some expression of these technologies. We don't yet know what they are, and they're probably unrelated to your son or
I don't know, Corey.
Well,
You get
I
that
think-
kid involved, you might be off the hook for some college tuition. They'll get a job. Oh no, I have a 16-year-old daughter. Yeah, she knows everything. I mean, yeah. Love it.
I'll also say, like, from an artist point of view, because I'm very much also a creator, no artist wants to lose control and barely get paid for their art.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
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 Yep. And by the way, I mean, I have family that everybody thinks I'm crazy most of the time anyway. But speaking of so earlier we were talking about Patrick, right? Who this is his first year that's not here. There was a mention of the project that we're working on together, which is called Gripner. It's based on D&D, right? So it's a blockchain, it's a D&D based blockchain game, okay?
As in Dungeons and Dragons.
Correct. Tell me what you think D&D people think of NFTs. Oh, I mean, they're not hate it. Like, they want to kill us. Like, literally, like, you are ruining a
I think you have to back up 3 steps. I'm not following.
Yeah.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because they're hanging out with Corey's kid. Like, they're stupid. They're scams. Nobody wants it. We don't want you. We don't want you in our space. You aren't us. You don't know. You can't do this. When I say these people, like, there was like a 5-page hit piece written, and then the whole community came together, and they just like barrage and tweet and whatnot. So in all different areas, right, there's things to be able to overcome. We actually did a funny thing. I don't know if anyone's here a D&D person, but we did a whole timeline of the 50 years of D&D, and everything people said no to. Like, you're gonna make a dragonborn? You can't do that. You're gonna do this? You can't do that. So we had to you said we couldn't, and we did all of this, so let's stay open to change. Right? But that's where it people just don't like it. They don't want it. They don't believe in it. It's going to go away. People are going to take your money. It's all scams. Why would I pay for a JPEG? And then people were like posting all over our page, I stole your picture. Now I own it. We're like, no, you don't. That's cool.
It's like taking a picture of the Mona Lisa and saying, oh, I own it now.
Yep.
I own the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
And really, you can't deny technology. You can't beat it. It's coming.
Question.
Yes. I just wanted to add that even when you're trying to survey a particular cohort, such as early adopters, representation matters. Mm-hmm. Because if your panel, if all it can provide are white males, 18 to 34, early adopters, you can expect that sample speak for all early adopters.
Yeah, so I think it depends on what you're researching, right? So if my client wants to understand specifically what NFT collectors say, that's not going to be representative. It's just like if your client wants you to get people that only drive a Toyota, right? It might be representative of who drives Toyotas, but it's not representative of the United States because the population of people who own that specific car are not state representative. We do this all the time, right? We do cohorts, we do oversamples, right? We do these things constantly. But if people want to really understand, they want to know from Craig and his group of people why you guys are in this and what you're doing, they only want to talk to them. Now, there's times when we do lots of national work, right? When we're like surveying like ownership, collection, openness, and those types of things they do. But when if somebody wants to speak to the CFO, right, they're only speaking to the CFO. They're not speaking to every employed person across the US. So when the clients say, I want collectors, I want creators, they're not coming from traditional panels. You got to go where they are. You got to go to their Discord, you got to go to their Twitter, you got to go get them, like, you got to collect them from a whole different area. There's like subject matter expertise almost.
And my point at the outset about getting together now to figure out what quality means in the Web3 context is exactly on that point that you make in the question, which is we have to aspire toward representativeness. I mean, it could ultimately be on the general population, but it has to start somewhere. Mm-hmm. So these are what we're talking about here. We now have the opportunity to build the components, of what that will look like without, knowing that we can't reach that full representativeness today. But I think we have to build it in a way that we at least aspire toward that. Question?
So too, for clarity, like when we're doing like groups and stuff, right? The clients will say like, we want males, we want females, we want non-binary, right? They will have like certain representations that they want to find within there. So it's not like it's just free for all, but they get very specific, right? Like I want to talk to non-binary creators that work on long form video, right? There's only like 200 of them, right? So it becomes a little tricky, I think.
Final question.
My question's around privacy and kind of in two ways. Individuals, like culturally, are we getting so open that we're going to find us circling back to people wanting to be a little bit more private with their information? And the other is, I'm in a very different space than probably a lot of the people in the room because I'm working in the healthcare space. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of privacy constraints in this space. So when it comes to legislation and things like that, as far as access to information, how do you see this all fitting together?
You want to start? You want me to start?
Oh, that's a big question. Why don't you go ahead?
30 seconds.
Oh. So I think one of the things that's interesting about the healthcare data is we actually talk a lot about the blockchain actually being a solution for a lot of the problems around the privacy. Again, you can see a transaction. You might not necessarily be able to see like, you could see that somebody has a data record that was just added to their profile, but you can't see that that says they have Crohn's. Okay. You know what I mean? I don't know if that was the best example, right? Also, think of the healthcare, right? And your data is stored in one central place. Most of you guys know I was hit by a car. I go to 17, I'm about to have another full back surgery, right? Every time I go to the doctor, a new specialist, whatever, we go through the same thing. My records are like this big, right? So now in healthcare, you have consistency and you're able to take that data with the person so that when they show up, it's all with them. Some of it, I think, how it actually like materializes, right? Around some of those rules and like regulations will be interesting. But blockchain and healthcare right now and same with blockchain and finance. They are best friends, but they're solving these same tricky problems, right? Same lot. We got HIPAA, we got all these different requirements. So.
And soon you can be best friends with blockchain too, thanks to our two panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And there's a session afterwards, a breakout session.
We got 46 seconds.
We're negative 46 seconds, but okay.
Okay, you guys own I Can Make It Better, right?
I'm sorry?
I Can Make It Better?
Yes.
So
yep.
How does this sort of jive with that? Is it going to replace that? I mean, you've got a business there and...
It could. I mean, maybe it could from a technology standpoint. Right. I don't think from a methodological standpoint, right? But maybe the community is already there and we just have to go figure out how to access them as opposed to trying to get the 500 people to sign up and stay in the community for a year.
Right.
So knowing how to still conduct that research, design that research, interact with those people is all the same. It just might look different. Again, with everybody having these individual community platforms, potentially that is not needed, potentially.
Right. Thanks.
Please join me in thanking our panelists, Jax and Craig.
Thank you so much. Thank you, John. Thank you for all the questions, everybody.
Thank you.